Hi, I'm Dr. Dana Lawrence, and I am Associate Provost of Education and Research at Parker University. I'm also the university's Quality Enhancement Plans Director, QEP Director. And the QEP is a very important part of the accreditation process. SACS has very specific criteria for conducting a quality enhancement plan. First is that the topic has to be identified through our ongoing planning process and evaluation process. Second, we need to have broad-based support from all the institutional constituencies. Third, the focus has to be on student learning, and this is critically important, also on student success. Fourth, the university needs to commit resources to conduct the QEP. And fifth, of course, we need a plan to assess how successful we are with our actions. Now, Parker's QEP, we determined the QEP after we conducted a series of interviews, focus groups, and we also ran a survey across all the different campus constituencies. And when all was said and done, the final choice for our QEP was entitled Enhancing the Use of Evidence. We call it EUE for short. Now, part of that plan is a process known as the 5 A's. Now, the 5 A's are a cyclic process of finding and applying information, evidence, to help make effective decisions. And this is going to be true regardless of the discipline in which you're working. If you're in a healthcare discipline, it might be about a patient management question. If you're working in a business setting, it might be about a business circumstance that you need to make an effective decision for. And in the 5 A's, we have this ongoing cycle where we might start by asking a question, acquiring information, appraising the information, applying it to our circumstances, and assessing whether or not it was successful at helping us come to a decision. So to sort of go over the 5 A's, let me briefly note them. And again, you could jump into this at any one of these, but for our purposes today, we're going to start with ask. So we have asking a question, which is an art in and of itself, acquiring information, appraising that information, applying it to the question we're trying to resolve, and then assessing whether or not it was successful. Now, over the course of the next several months, we're going to focus on individual A's. But today, I just want to briefly discuss the first, the Ask A. Okay, so I'm going to look just briefly at ask. And the reason it's important that we understand how to ask a question is because it's important for ultimately being able to locate information that we can use to answer the question. So it's not just a simple matter of saying, oh, I need to know something about this. It's a way of formatting that question to lead to the most effective means of searching literature to find good information. So asking the question leads to effective means for locating the information. And it helps to create a very good search strategy. Now, again, depending on where you are in the discipline, you may format this somewhat differently. But to ask a question, this is the critical elements of asking a question. First, what's the context? Is it for patient care? Is it for a business question? Is it for a more general educational question? We need to find an intervention. An intervention is an answer. So for patient care, it might be a treatment. For a business setting, it might be an approach to answering the question. We should identify alternatives to that intervention for comparison purposes. Sometimes there may be nothing that we can compare things to, and that's okay. And then finally, we need to look at the outcome of interest. What is it that we hope to be able to do when all is said and done? And so what we're going to do in the ask part of training amongst Parker students is learn how to write the question in order to find good information. When we have all of this in hand, we're going to be much more efficient at locating information, which, as you know, is going to be critical because, we have so many options as to how to find information. We could go to Google. Google is like everybody's collective memory. If you remember in the movie Inside Out, there was a little scene where Joy and Sadness were looking for information for the little girl who lost her memories, and they saw a couple of maintenance workers throwing out memories, and they panicked. And the maintenance workers just happen to say, hey, listen, these are telephone numbers. She doesn't need to remember these because they're pre-programmed into her cell phone. And this is true. I don't know my kid's phone number because all I have to do is hit a button. So Google's like our collective memory, but it's not always the best source of information, particularly if you don't ask your question well. So today we've talked about ask. In the future, we'll look at the other A's, and I thank you so much for your attention.